What's up, people? I want to add to this, conversation about why hip hop potentially is not, within the top 100 Billboard charts. I think, let me get straight to it. I think for me, it's based around hip hop literally having its moment when it comes to the artists that released. So they've changed the criteria for how, long you can be within the charts once you've had your hit. So any songs that have been within the charts at a certain period are now moved out after a certain period. And then obviously other artists have a chance to try and get into the top 40. But I think hip hop and most of the main players, they've had their top 40 moments and they've now been moved out with this new criteria and other people have come in. The main guys have released, but other artists who are not the main have not released songs that have actually had the chance to get in, because at the end of the day, to get into the top 40, it takes a lot of, I would say, variables. You need a push for the most part. You need marketing in your labels to really push, brand your movement, your singles, and really get that going. And then also, I also think that you're having a lot of artists who haven't released at a certain period. So, as I said, the main players released within, last year and this year. Some of the guys, the Kendricks and people like that have released. They've been in there for a long period, but other artists haven't released who could be even in that top 40 conversation. Nicki, she's one. She hasn't released. And then other artists who have released, just their singles haven't managed to break in because either there's an issue with the type of music that's coming out, or labels aren't promoting and pushing as they once were. A lot of the time there's budget cuts, there's people pulling back within these environments. So you have to look at that as well. But I would say the main players are the ones that are required to really release and try and get into that top 40. But I would say a lot of the artists that are not the main guys have not been able to break in. And it could be a few things. Like I said, it could be an issue with labels, with some of these artists who are signed, not being pumped enough in terms of marketing and things of that nature. And there's also issues with how long singles stay in the public sort of domain in terms of the interest level. Because you can get a single that does well from a social media perspective. So TikTok, any social media platform that is pushed on, the ones that we generally know of. So it can do well there, but does that translate for it to have staying power in the charts? And you got to look into that as well to think a lot of these songs that be popping off on, Instagram, on Reels, on TikTok, are they strong enough for us to have that kind of interest for us to let it stay on the top 40 for a long period? And even, do we even look at this music today as songs that are commercial worthy, or are there music that people are making that are just music that sounds good to the audience that they serve, but is it having that a commercial appeal that most of these songs need to have in order for it to get into that top 40? Because there's like a sound that generally is associated with the commercial appeal over the years, right? There's people that do it well. There's people that do it and know how to do it when it comes to these rappers. But is there maybe a sound change that a lot of the people who listen to music are just listening to it? They're cool with it, but it doesn't have that appeal on a broader scale. Some of the artists, like I say, that are not the main players who generally are on the top 40, are some of their songs not at that commercial appeal level? That's the question that has to be asked as well, because I think that could be it as well. A lot of the artists, they're releasing songs, rap goes through different changes in terms of sound. And I think the sound for today's rap, if it doesn't have certain elements that I would say are more accustomed to what is generally within the pop culture environment, then it won't just cross over and stay and get into the charts, because you're competing with so many people who have a label push, who have a certain sound that is generally within that. And rap, for me, has gone through many moments where it's not how it kind of used to be. That's just even a couple of years ago. You check some of the guys that are rapping today, some of the sounds, if you just think from the top of your head, apart from the main guys, do their sounds sound like the typical sounds that are generally within the commercial rap environment? And I don't think so. I don't think so. So there's a few things that need to be looked at. It's not an issue with hip hop being dead potentially. I don't think it's that. Because a lot of people are saying, oh, I think hip hop's dead. And look, hip hop has gone through many moments where there's been moments where people have said it's dead. Nas said it many years ago, right? There's been moments, but I think it's mainly the main guys have had their time when they released to be in the charts with this new change and the criteria that's changed for, how long you can stay in the charts with the hits that you've had. There hasn't been anyone else that has been releasing music to get into that environment, or maybe, like I say, the quality or the push from labels haven't been within those environments. Because a lot of the time, artists now have to be promoting themselves using social media. So if labels I believe, are telling them, look, go and promote on socials, as opposed to us pumping so much money into you, you're having to do a lot. But it's stuff that I think should be done from artists. They should be able to take their own music, well, labels own it, but they should be able to take the music that they create and push it in ways where they're trying to maximize social media as much as they can, because it's your music. You want to be able to get it going. You want to be able to get it going to a point where it has lasting power. And I don't think a lot of artists sometimes take their music, their singles individually, and really go on a campaign per single for months on end. I think a lot of the time they release a single and they stay with it for a couple of maybe weeks, and then it dies down, and then they may go to another single. I think each single needs to take months to really promote like it used to be, and using these social media platforms, if your label is not really pumping money as they should, and there's probably a reason why they're not pumping it as well. So I think a lot of the time artists need to really take their music, push it in ways where it's on a longer sort of campaign, using socials, as well as obviously trying to galvanize your fan base to try and, if you really want this top 40 chance, to push it through and try and see if you can get top 40, from the promotional activities that you may use on socials. But I think, yeah, for me, there's that aspect of it as well, where, artists literally are not releasing at the time also that has been required, for them to even get a chance to get in that top 40 as well. So the main guys are who they are. We know who they are. But the other artists, for me, there's an issue maybe with timing of when they release, and also quality. Quality needs to still remain at the highest point. And if the sounds are not where it needs to be, then there's going to be other artists getting into the top 40. Because as soon as that change happened with Billboard, hip hop was thrown out, and then other artists of different genres, for example, Taylor Swift, competing with Taylor Swift, you're going to struggle based on the fact that she's got an engine. She's got a machine behind her. So if you don't have certain sounds that resonate and even have the chance to really compete with, a Taylor Swift type of artist, then it's going to be hard to maintain your stay within that, top 40 realm. But there are artists within, just outside of it. So there's artists just outside the top 40, but to get in, this new criteria, it gives artists a period to really benefit. And then obviously, eventually they start getting phased out if the single is still not being, pushed by the fans and obviously by the labels. But independent artists, I want to add something there too. I think independent artists, they have a chance to get into the top 40. It's going to be tough. Artists do sometimes, have the chance to get into it, irrespective of them being independent. But I think independent artists and rappers who really want to, spit and be about that rap-ish, they just need to focus on creating music for their fans and being artists that can just literally feed their fan base one-on-one, build their fan base and keep building step by step, maximizing their time when they release their singles, promoting it, and staying long with each single. Because sometimes artists don't want to do that. I think a lot of artists just want to put out music and then state that it's out, put a video out, maybe do a little, Instagram post and move on. But I think artists, rappers in general, need to just stay with singles more, stay with promoting it more, stay with, make the lifespan increase, and push it in ways where they're taking care of each single, of each moment that they have whenever they release a single, and then try and galvanize your fan base, giving them ways that they can, somehow interact. Because rap, from a commercial standpoint, there are issues, but not from a standpoint in terms of rap in general. There's too many rappers out here that are still spitting. There's too many rappers out here from an underground level that are doing their thing. So rap in that sense is good. It's just the commercial aspect, there's questions on it, because rap commercially has always been a thing over the years. Obviously they've said, this is the first time this has happened since, just a friend, Bismarcky, right? All those years ago. But rap commercially has always had that push from labels. When labels in the 90s and early 2000s had their artists, there was a concerned effort to push some of the best or the biggest artists out there. And I think there was a quality that was different back then to the artists today. I think the artists sound today, because rap to me sounds, it has many different moments in its sound. And a lot of artists, it looks like they're not really too keen at times to be even attempting to go for the top 40 environment. And that requires a certain type of sound. And I think, artists of yesteryear, they had that sound and it kind of worked to be able to go into advertisements. It could be in programs, it could be in so many ways that they can use that music. But if I listen to the music today, when it comes to, for example, American music, particularly in the rap side, I don't hear that sound that you can say, I can use that in different environments. Only the main guys, the Nickies, the Drakes, the Kendricks, the J. Coles, those are some of the guys that, you can use their music in different environments. But other artists, there's questions. So, I think there's a few issues and a few reasons, but rap in general is fine. It's just an issue with the commercial rap, and attempts of getting into the top 40 is the issue. And that type of sound, to get into the top 40, you have to have a specific style of music that you put, because to reach a broader audience, there's a particular sound there. And I think that's where the questions need to be asked, because people are sometimes questioning in this whole conversation about, this issue of is there an issue with rap? I don't think so. It's more literally about the rap commercial sound and rappers not being able to, I would say, have a sound that really sticks for long periods. For me, I would say, rap is still in a good place. There's rappers out here that are still spitting. There's artists that are still doing their thing, but commercially, there's questions. And I think it's not just rap that will be affected. It'll be other genres as well. It'll be other people that are within the charts and they will get pushed out, for them having their singles maybe not lasting as much as maybe they once had. So there's going to be a few other artists being affected with not being in the top 40 for long periods, unless their fans keep pushing the singles that they release so they can, stay there longer. But I think rappers in general shouldn't really worry or think about the top 40 too much. It's all about cultivating your fan base directly, and social media is where you do it. So I think that's what it is. If you want to be like a rapper that lasts, then focus on creating music that the fans want. Now, if you want a broader audience, then that's when you should look at the top 40 conversation and think, okay, so how is it affecting me? But if you're not in that kind of environment, and that's not where your label, or if you're an independent artist, that's not where you're focused, then you should be fine. You should be able to just keep making music and growing with your fan base. But that's what I think. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting one, and I think a lot of people, a lot of artists, and a lot of people have, particularly people online, have made their assessments on it, but yeah, I think it's mainly the time frame of when artists release. The main artists have released already, so they've had their time on the charts. Artists who are not at the, you know, the big sort of level, they are not releasing music that is able even to get into their top 40 because they've got a lot of competition from other artists who have engines behind them, machines, or there's a quality issue as well with, like I said, about, you know, some of the artists not having certain music that is geared sometimes towards there. And yeah, I just think there's a few elements to look at, but rap is not dead. It's just the commercial side of things where, you know, it may need an increase in quality, and obviously an increase in push and investment, even if you're an independent or a signed artist. Like the video if you you know, watched it. And what do you think? What do you think could be the reason as to why you know, this has affected hip hop more so as opposed to any other genre?